Welcome to the Divine Soliloquy podcast.
Journey with us as we share with you a higher level of thought consciousness from our own personal perspectives. Listen guys, the universe operates on a constant level of vibration and is constantly moving, growing and changing. And so are our thoughts, feelings and opinions.
This is a safe space, so there's no judgment here. Everything is love, love, love. So join us as we vibrate in and out of banter and soulful conversations. You can keep up with Ebbs and I on Instagram at divine.soliloquy. That's divine.soliloquy.
Wow. Hello guys, today what are we talking about, Ali?
Self-awareness. Self-awareness.
So give me the definition, the Webster definition things.
Okay, fine. So I'm going to read you guys the definition of self-awareness and then we're just going to take it from there. So self-awareness is the ability to focus on yourself and how your actions, thoughts or emotions do or do not align with your internal standards. If you are highly self-aware, you can objectively evaluate yourself, manage your emotions, align your behavior with your values, and understand correctly how people perceive you.
Oh, that's deep. That's deep.
So, Ebbs, do you feel like you're self-aware? Is the question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I do. I definitely do. That definition is intense.
It is. Very.
Because I feel like a lot of people don't like feeling self-aware. They don't like being pushed to be more self-aware. I've asked a question on my Instagram a couple of years ago about, is being self-aware good? And a lot of people said no, funnily enough.
That's surprising.
It is, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
But the comments basically were that if you're self-aware, you know too much, and so you're constantly thinking about what you're doing, how it's affecting other people, how other people see you, how you maybe see yourself, and they feel like it's just too much brain power going on at once. You just kind of want to live a little bit ignorantly. A lot of people like to do that. They
say ignorance is bliss.
They do, and I truly believe that. Because ask me if self-awareness is fun. Ask me.
Is self-awareness fun, Ebony?
No! It's not. But Ali, are you self-aware?
I am cripplingly self-aware.
Is that a word?
So, cripplingly is my word today, okay? I am very self-aware. I think that others would, funnily enough, describe me as very aloof. I find that I'm so self-aware that I do overtime trying to dull that down a little bit.
Yeah.
Simply because there's always something to look at. I love to learn. I love to grow. We speak about self-love and self-work and self-worth all the time. So I'm always looking for a moment of growth. I'm always looking for a lesson. And having self-awareness, you tend not to miss a lesson. Even if you don't quite understand it, you know there's a lesson in there.
Yes.
When that happens, mid situation, it can be difficult as well to sometimes hold people to certain standards simply because of your self-awareness. Okay,
so let's just draw it back a little bit. What does your self-awareness look like specifically?
Oh my god, I always get the hard question.
Don't worry, I'll answer as well. But
okay. So it could, alright, just scaling it back, plain answer. I could be having an interaction with somebody. If an individual was to come to me and just express something to me, something that I did that they didn't necessarily like, for example, I'm looking at even my responses. I'm looking at my actions. I'm looking at my responses. I'm looking at my tone. I'm looking at every angle, everything that I've done, because I'm doing this in a roundabout way. My self-awareness means to me looking at my contribution to every interaction that I partake in. Whether it be my facial expression, my tone, my choice of words, whatever it may be, I'm looking at absolutely everything. My timing, everything. And I'm constantly looking at that to see how it contributes to that, to see how I've chosen to react, how I could potentially react in a different way, how I could better myself. If my reaction contributed to the individual's reaction, it's just constant. It's constant, yeah. It's a constant thought. It doesn't stop at, I could have said hi instead of hi. It's just kind of like, maybe I should have said good morning. Do you know what I mean?
Things. Do you know what's funny? As you were talking, I was thinking one thing: out of body experience.
Oh.
Self-awareness for me, in a nutshell, outer body experience. I genuinely look at situations that I'm in, and not only am I self-aware from my own perspective, but then I'm also thinking about the other person. So it's like I'm literally vibrating above the situation, and I'm looking down at it, and I'm saying, right, this is what you did, Ebbs, and this is how you acted, and this is how your body language was moving. And this is how you felt. And in that moment, what were you also thinking? What was in the back of your mind? Had you just had an argument with a friend or a boyfriend and you're projecting onto that person? And then how was that person feeling? Where did they come from that day? Did they have a bad day also? Did they have a good day also? Do they have a preconceived notion of me before they came into this interaction?
I have a question.
Yes.
My hand's in the air, by the way, because my mum's a teacher, so we raise our hands. So... would you then say that your self-awareness, essentially, what you're saying, just so that the guys or our souls can fully understand,
yes,
it's a conversation between you in the 3D, the individual in the 3D, and your higher self.
100%.
So you're not just having a conversation with the individual at hand, you're also having a conversation in conjunction with your higher self. And all of this is happening
at the same time
as a filter to your response.
Yeah. All of that. So going back to it, yes, I wish I wasn't as self-aware.
Basically.
That is exhausting. When you really deep it, that's exhausting. Because I'm constantly, and not only am I constantly thinking about all of those things, 3D, 4D, 5D, whatever Ds you want to be in, also sitting there and I'm like, should I have, this person could have done something so horrible to me.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
But because I'm so self-aware,
Speaking.
I can rationalise the bullshit.
My God.
It's true. And it is so annoying that I can sit there and see someone. I can literally see someone murder someone and be like,
I'll be like, do you know what?
But you know what, though?
He did owe you money. So I understand. I overstand because you didn't ask him for your money.
Not overstand.
I overstand.
Literally, it's so annoying. So it's not even like just self-awareness. It's like outer self-awareness.
But there's also being an empath. We haven't touched on that. We've got to scale it all the way back.
Yeah, because that's a very important part of both of our self-awareness journeys. Both me and Ali are self-professed empaths. And when do you feel like that started implementing itself into your self-awareness journey? So, the definition of an empath for people who don't know, what is it?
Okay. So an empath, according to the dictionary, it's a person with the paranormal ability to perceive the mental or emotional state of another individual.
Yes. So we absorb a lot of energies.
A lot of energies.
So if you are somebody who is sad and you're around someone who's an empath, 9 times out of 10 they're going to feel your sadness and they're going to take it on as their own. And it's very hard for you to even feel your own emotions because you are so...
in tune.
And overwhelmed with other people's energies, especially if you're someone who's out all the time, or you're socializing all the time, and you're having all these interactions. So yeah, how did it manifest in your self-awareness journey? For me personally, I would say, because I've asked Eb this question before, I asked her earlier, and I said, what did I say to you? I asked in regards to your boundaries, didn't I? Yeah. Does it affect, your boundaries? So I think for me, I would say my self-awareness, it almost was robotic. I just didn't understand that it was self-awareness that I was practicing. Because being an empath naturally, and I also would consider myself a self-proclaimed healer. I love healing and helping other individuals. So I would say that just naturally, me wanting to help, I'm always aware of other people's emotions. And in turn, I was always constantly aware of myself, wanting to make sure that I wasn't contributing or impacting or just putting anything on someone else. That's what an empath naturally does. So I think it's coupled. But you end up doing that and practicing self-awareness long before, in my opinion, as an empath, long before you even realise self-awareness is what you're doing.
I think that for me personally, it's been the opposite. I've always been self-aware, just didn't have a title for it. Like I've always been an empath, but I didn't have a title for it. What I had to work on in my self-awareness journey was actually my boundaries.
Yes, yeah.
Because I didn't have boundaries.
Yeah.
And tools. I didn't have boundaries, nor did I have tools.
And the tools, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, that's really interesting. Because for me, if we're going back to the 3D world, when we talk about self-awareness, it's kind of the same, because my journey was always my self-awareness as it pertains to others' energy. And so it was always in the state of, right, I don't want to make this person even more upset, so I'm going to make sure I am doing X, Y, Z, and Z to make sure that outcome is not happening. So from a very early age, I already could sense my mother's emotions. Like I can think all the way back to age 6, and I can feel when my mother was upset. I can feel when she was frustrated.
Yeah.
I can feel when she was happy. It happens today as well. Like, you know, you tell me all the time, like,
I'm like, girl.
My mum will walk into the room and for 2 seconds, and I'll just know. I'll be like, right, Ali, I'm going to call you back. So I was wrong with my mum.
I'll be like, she grown, girl.
I just know, and so I have to, my self-awareness journey started on the backs of making other people feel comfortable. So in that aspect, how is it that you even start practicing self-awareness for yourself? Because what does that look like? Because I think for us, like you said, the journey actually started from, or like I said, the journey started from other people and then segued into being self-aware.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about being self-aware for ourselves, and like the description said, objectively evaluating ourselves, are we evaluating ourselves based on how we want to feel, or how other people want to feel, or how we want other people to perceive how we feel?
Well, the troubled mind, you see, of Alison. It's all three. That's the problem. And that's why I can't meet myself. I almost feel like it's all three. And then when I know I have to choose, and I say shamefully, but it's shamelessly for others. Shamefully, I always choose others first. It's very rare that I can say wholeheartedly, I'm going to say, do you know what? I'm going to go with what works with Alison. I always find a compromise. Like, if I do this route, it will eventually work for Alison. And that's where the boundaries come into play. Because what did it say in the description? It said, if you are highly self-aware, you can objectively evaluate yourself. I can objectively evaluate myself. But then it said, manage your emotions and align your behaviours with your values.
And understand how people perceive you.
Right. And that's where the empath comes into play, doing ping pong. Because I know my values. I know where I align. And I find that what happens is that's when the empathy kind of retreat comes into play. When I want to fully just be self-aware and just be Alison and do it Alison's way, what works for Alison, I have to retreat. Yeah. And not surround myself with other beings. Because the minute I'm surrounded by other beings, and it could just be one being, I've automatically, to some degree, put myself aside. And you said something interesting, mate. So, my souls, my dear sweet souls, Ebony said something interesting before we started recording. She said, but what are your values? That's what you said to me. Yeah. And I said, I'll think about it.
Okay, I don't know.
And now I've said it to you. So what are your values? Do you know what I mean?
I was low-key thinking about it, but
small.
You know what? It's funny. My values, when I think about them, all I think about is I'm doing unto others as I would like them to do unto me. And it's the same thing we've just been talking about for the last 10 minutes. It's all about the other person. So my personal values are respect, integrity, and loyalty. And those things actually, especially the loyalty part, comes very naturally to me, probably to a detriment. But,
yeah, I was going to say that.
Yeah, but those, when I think about values, I just think about things that you just don't even have to think about. Like, those are the things, those are your fundamentals, no matter how much your opinions change, or how much you grow, or, you know, like we say, we're vibrating. So it's a constant change. But no matter how much you change, I do believe your values stay the same. They're one of the very few things that stay the same about you. And I think those three things, pretty much from baby up until how old am I now, encompasses that.
My hand's in the air.
Go ahead, Annie.
My mum said I could speak. So, she didn't raise us like this, by the way. I want to do a disclaimer that I didn't have to raise my hand to speak to my mother. But, do you feel like, because you said, do unto others as you would want to be done to you, like in some biblical way. God knows what she said. But she said something like that. So, do you feel like that you always respect yourself, though? In efforts to be a support system for other people.
So
and
I
it
always respect myself.
Yeah.
In what aspect?
In what regard? So you don't treat people disrespectfully. The friend that I know that you're not disrespectful towards others. But do you receive and accept disrespect from other people?
No, not at all. I don't. Okay. Let me answer that question truthfully. Depending on how far.
Let's just scale it back. But can you hear the change in the tone all of a sudden?
I was coming with some gang shit. I was like, no,
never on some blood and bomber club bullshit.
Okay, let me be really honest. Depending on the connection that I have with you, so let's just be real. Like our parents and our siblings have been hella disrespectful.
Oh,
we love them. Okay. No, they can be hella disrespectful. They can break your heart. They can just make you feel and they are the closest people to you. So have I been disrespected and accepted it? Yeah, of course I have. But when it comes to connections that are a bit more easy to detach from, I give you a couple chances. They're probably not as many as other people would, but I definitely give you a couple chances, and the disrespect is very minimal. So it's usually builds, right? For me, I don't think I've ever had. I can only say really in a friendship situation, I've had someone be hella disrespectful to me, and I've been like, yeah, that's not gonna run. Like, as much as I'm a nice person, Felicia. I will gracefully bow out. Like, you will be like, whoa, where did Ebs go? You
do up Patrick Swayze. Like, this girl does up ghost quick. I'm like, Whoopi, like, was he there?
I ain't got time. So that's why when you asked me the question, I was like, no, I don't take disrespect. But because disrespect and the reaction to disrespect looks different to other people, it might look like I take disrespect. But nah, I'm not about to call you out your name. I'm not about to shout at you. I'm not about to have a fight in the middle of the street. I am just going to respectfully say, beloved, take care.
No hullabaloo for me.
Yeah, and hope you have a good life.
No, but can we rewind and just say that sentence once again with a pause?
What sentence?
You said about disrespect. You said because disrespect looks like and what to other people?
It's different to other people.
That's important though.
Yeah.
I think that's really, really important to highlight because you and I have conversations all the time about disrespect. Yeah. And we have conversations about our...
Can you objectively manage your emotion?
So and that's another thing. I believe that we both are. I can speak on behalf of both of us. I think that we are excellent at managing our emotions to the outer world. Yeah. That's important because we are also self-healers bar one another. So bar Ebony, I am a self-healer. Everything that I go through, I could go through alone, heal myself, talk to myself, see myself through, counsel myself. I can hug myself. I can make it work. And Ebs is the same. Yeah. It's actually one another that we have that shoulder. Yeah. Especially in the way that we process things and so on and so forth. And I think that is mastering your emotions will also change. Because I was going to ask you a question when you were speaking, so it kind of ties in and piggybacks what I'm saying now. Do you find that it's harder to be self-aware with the people that you love the most? Because or more crippling, not harder, but more crippling. Because you're aware, but you know that they're not necessarily being punished the way that they should, quote unquote, be punished or handled in this situation. Is it more apparent that you're being self-aware? Because as much as you want to turn it off and just, you and I have this conversation, you just want to just turn it off and just, you know, do what other people do, key the car or, you know,
set the clothes on fire.
Set the clothes on fire, throw bleach in their mum's eye, whatever people do. But when you can't do that because you care about the person, because it goes beyond siblings, it does kind of go to, for me personally, I can hear all the girls screaming at me. But like, in non-platonic relationships, I can be a lot kinder. I was thinking of
than your platonic relationships.
Yeah.
So you're saying you're nicer to your link than your friends.
Well, when I'm time roots.
I'm
But because this is real.
Yeah.
This is a real conversation.
Yeah.
If I really, and I'm a girl's girl. Am I not a girl's girl?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm down for the crown. I'm so there for you. I'm a girl's girl, and I'm a ride or die friend. I will move earth for my friends.
You are. Yeah.
But when I really like someone to that point of like just really like, and it's because I don't connect with people often, so I don't like many people.
Yes.
That's the thing about me.
Yeah.
But when I do like someone and I connect with them and I feel connected with them, I can be a lot more lenient. A lot more lenient. And it's not because I'm not aware of what's going on, whether it's my self-awareness or aware of their behaviour and their actions. Yeah. It's that because I don't connect or like many people, I value that I value that connection a lot more than sometimes that even that individual deserves.
So, question: would you say then that being self-aware in a romantic relationship is harder than being self-aware in a platonic relationship?
Would I think it's harder? Yeah, it is harder because when your emotions, and honestly, when your emotions are involved, because remember, self-awareness is the mind, and your heart and your mind are different organs.
Yeah, facts.
And that's why I would just and that's probably why it's even harder with your loved ones, because your heart is involved. So I think whenever your heart is involved, self-awareness can be challenging, essentially is what we're saying. Yeah. What I would say though is, although we've been able to identify that for ourselves and in one another, I still feel as though it does come quicker than the people that I've dealt with as spouses.
So the self-awareness comes quicker, sorry. Yeah,
so I feel like we're both relatively self-aware anyway. When I say that it can be a little bit harder in romantic relationships, it just means, I have to think about this. But we get there. And you and I have conversations and we get there. Yeah. Where it would normally come by ourselves in the first 25 minutes, it might take 48 hours, but it comes. Yeah. So although it might feel like for us personally, because we're used to being extremely self-aware, like it's a longer period of time, it's pretty quick. Yeah. It's pretty quick for a relationship. I personally think so.
I might have to disagree with you on that one.
No, go for it.
Just simply because I feel like with your family and your friends, you especially, when I'm talking versus the romantic relationship in the beginning, because you are so self-aware, you might have some preconceived notions of what you shouldn't or should do based on your other relationships, platonic or otherwise. So you might come into this new romantic relationship thinking, okay, cool. As a self-aware person, I have gone back and evaluated objectively, as the self-awareness definition says, and seen, right, in that relationship, I did this, this, and this, and I really shouldn't do that again, and So you go into the new one thinking you've got it all fucking figured out. And you apply all these evaluation outcomes that you've taken out your Excel spreadsheet, and you've got X, Y, Z, and you've realised, actually, it's a different fucking person.
See, I don't do that, though. That's probably why I'm saying that.
That's good, then. Because that's where I struggle. Because then I think, not necessarily I think it's a blanket for every person I'm dealing with. Yeah. But I might go into it thinking, all right, cool. I know I shouldn't have done this in this relationship, so I'm going to make sure I don't do this in this one. But then come to find out that the person might not even be bothered by that.
I don't. I take when I do something for my next any situation, it's from my life experience. If I've spoken to you in a way that you didn't take kindly to, I'm thinking about that application in any setting. I don't really look at things in that group collective way.
Let me give you a scenario.
Okay.
Say you've had a relationship previously where the person has been okay. Let's say with banter, friendly banter, right? Some people, and people joke about this all the time, where women don't know how to take banter, right? But you, Ali, I can say your banter is A1. You know how to do a banter.
Tell them I'm so funny.
However, yeah. Somebody who is not necessarily either used to your banter or securing themselves, because I'm going to put that in there.
You have to,
Right.
You have to be
right.
for my banter.
So, but you might meet somebody who is acting like they're big, bad, and bossy, and you go into the relationship and you're doing up banter, and one day the person disappears, and then when you finally get to talk to them, they're like, I didn't like when you said this and that. And you're like, but it was just my banter. Would you then, if you're going to continue on with that relationship, say to yourself and evaluate, right, I'm going to have to check my banter?
No.
Okay.
Because my banter it's whenever I meet someone, as you know, I always say I'm not for the weak.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that as in literally the definition of weak, but I am not.
If you're not secure,
get
out of Ali's way.
And it's, I mean, first of all, guys, I'm a Sagittarius.
Yes.
So we're already just straight shooters.
Yeah.
It's my Virgo moon that helps you all. Because my Virgo moon will be like, don't say that, think. But other than that, I'm a Sag. So we just kind of say what it is. So I am not for somebody that is, because as much as we can give it, we can take it.
Yeah.
That's the thing about a Sagittarius. If we say you got a spot on your eye and you say to a Sagittarius, you got one on your lip, they're like, oh, thanks.
Yeah.
It's not, you're not going to hurt our feelings in that way.
Yeah.
So for me, in that vetting process, don't pretend that you don't mind something when it's a part of who I am.
Yeah.
Because it really is a part of who I am. I will never go out of my way, because I am an empath and I'm very conscious and I'm very self-aware. I'm never going out of my way to hurt your feelings. But I do know that part of my banter can be offensive. And when I say offensive, I just mean...
Can trigger you.
It can trigger some. Apparently, I've heard. I mean, I hear this a lot, but it's not. Let me just give them I have to give an example.
Okay, yeah.
Emily's got her hand in the air, so my mum will be very happy. So I had a friend, and you know, men can be men sometimes. And unfortunately, she was just with a guy that wasn't fantastic.
Yeah.
So he done that thing that guys do. This is a while ago. He done that thing that guys do, where it's like they will make you their girlfriend, and then they'll tell everyone, oh, you know, I was just seeing her. Just kind of diminish their relationship. Fine. Yeah. So we were having a conversation a period after, and she was just telling me a story, and she was like, you know what, he was my boyfriend, da-da-da. And I said, listen, you both have to feel like you're in a relationship for it to be a boyfriend. And that's what I mean. That's a great example of my banter. Like,
oh my God.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I was just...
not banter.
That's how I speak. So for me, it's like, are you sure, babes? Because if man don't feel like you lot was together, then you weren't together. No,
and that's it. If she was insecure about that situation,
but she laughed, and
she
said to me, she even said to me, she's like, I cannot believe you just said that. And it's not until people react to me is when I realise, this is a problem for most. Because for me, that was just funny.
But you're aware of this. You're self-aware of the fact that sometimes the banter is triggering for some people, but you are also self-aware to know who you can and can't say it to. And how. So you do tweak it depending on the person.
Yeah, but what I really want to say is really funny and I can't get out.
I know. But in life, a self-aware person will adapt to their environment. That's just point blank.
And I can,
and you do adapt to your environment. And let's segue into, because you touched on something about something pertaining to self-love. So how do you feel like self-love and self-awareness works hand in hand? Like how does that journey look to you? How does that couple look to you?
See, I would say that we know what self-love is. Yeah. I think that for me, there's something, as much, because we've spoken a lot about how crippling self-awareness can be. Mm-hmm. So just to put the pros in there, I would say that self-awareness, I want to be able to articulate this correctly. I need a second, because I really want to articulate correctly. So you answer if you have an idea.
I think I do, yeah. I think self-awareness for me, realising all of the different things about me and myself and going through my journey, especially my self-love journey, because they were different. Yeah. They married up because then I was aware enough to put my best traits forward, if that makes any sense. Like I feel like I was doing myself a disservice before when I wasn't as self-aware, because I was putting forward all of the things that I thought I should based on how everybody else perceived me and how I wanted everybody else to perceive me. But then when I done my self-love journey and I talked about love of self and the things that I found that I loved of myself, then that became the forefront of my self-awareness. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So when I figured out that actually I'm quite an intellectual person, not that I didn't know that before, But in terms of, I'm quite a chameleon, so I can go into a lot of different situations with people from a lot of different backgrounds and fit right in. And I wasn't projecting that in the forefront of my, like, say you have a manifesto and you're like, this is the great stuff, da 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 da, this is what I do, this is who I am, bam, look at me. I wasn't putting that in the forefront of the manifesto. I was putting that in the back. And that was because of how I wanted to, how I understood other people perceive me. And that, I think, was really, really important, because then it did change the way people perceive me, because all of a sudden, the things I wanted people to love me for, they were actually starting to love me for, because I was projecting it. And that's how the self-awareness and the self-love worked really, really well together, especially in the later years of my life.
That was so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like I shouldn't even add to that. I just want to say, I agree. But like... No, it was really good. It was good because you articulated pretty much what I was kind of concatenating.
Yeah. Oh, say that word again.
Concatenate.
Oh, goddamn.
Girl.
That's a word.
I'm smart. I'm smart. Little prince.
Love it.
Yeah, I was concatenating because... No, I agree. You articulated really well. I feel like you just pacified me, put a dummy in my mouth, you said, shut up. But you don't know, because that was good. And as you were speaking, I was also thinking to myself that it does help with the self-growth journey as well. Yes. So having self-awareness does definitely assist in your self-growth journey, because there's things that you get to learn some of your triggers. And I remember I saw a meme once that said, you know, if you're constantly triggered by everything, you're constantly going to be upset by everything. Yeah. And when you think about self-awareness and you think about self-love and you think about self-growth, so everything to do with self, they do go hand in hand. Yeah. To grow is to have self-awareness. To have self-awareness is to love yourself enough to say, I can do better.
Oh.
That was deep. Tell your friends.
Put that on a t-shirt.
Girl. But do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it does everything to do with self. Definitely goes together, and I feel like it's just something that you don't realize that you have to be in order to hold the title of a growing individual. I find that a lot of people feel as though they can embark on a self-growth, self-care, self-love journey and completely miss out self-awareness. And you find that a lot when you speak to certain individuals that you know are growing. Whether they go down religion or spirituality or just they're starting to look inwards or follow certain pages. Everybody has a different journey and a different route. Yeah. But when you miss the self-awareness, you can appear the same. Yeah. And I think 100%. That's important for a lot of people.
100%. Because like I said, sorry, just to
cut you off.
Because like I said about the self-love part, if you haven't done the self-awareness and the self-growth journey, your self-love journey is going to look like what everybody else thinks your self-love journey should look like. Because you haven't looked in self. Yeah. You've looked outside. So it is really, really important to do that work and go through that journey. It is painful though. And it's a lot. Yeah. And I'm not going to sit here and say that becoming self-aware and the self-growth and the self-love journey is easy, and once you get there, everything's gravy. It's actually not. In fact, we said in the beginning, it's probably 10 times worse, I'm not going to lie to you. But the good payoff to it is that you are constantly going to be somebody who, if you like journeying, because let's just be real and let's just be honest, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I genuinely mean that in a way where ignorance is bliss. Yeah. And I truly do believe that you can be happy in ignorance and you can be happy in your higher self. Yeah. You can be happy in both. It's your choice. Yeah. But for me personally and my higher self, I'm a bit happier. My happiest are happier. My lowest are lower. But my happiest are happier. Does that make sense?
But your lowest don't... I shouldn't speak for you. No, it's more of a question. But for me, it's definitely a statement. Your lowest aren't as long as they used to be,
because you're
you're self-aware and you're visiting your higher self more often.
Because when you're lower and you're ignorant to what you're low about, you're just going to stay in it. You're fermenting in the low parts of your life. Yeah. But when you're self-aware, you're like, right, I'm low because this, and this. Feel the feels, go through the motions, and I'll get over it. Like, you get it.
Before we even close off this topic, I do want to point out that we spoke a lot about self-aware being crippling and why. I will say the most crippling part about it is because we're navigating in a world where many aren't self-aware.
And that was the last topic we needed to touch on.
Oh, I'm glad.
How do you hold other people accountable, or even have interactions with other people who are not self-aware and have a productive encounter?
If I'm being like 100%, I don't think that the encounter is productive to a point where we're both happy.
Okay.
But I do feel like we can have a productive encounter. I just feel like personally, as a self-aware one, I either have to do more bending or more compromising, or have to be the one to come up with the resolve.
Yeah.
So more work. Regardless, I feel like as the self-aware being, I have to do more work. Yes. So it's always a little bit more taxing for me personally, or whoever feels like they are more self-aware in that situation.
And do you feel like you as a result have less encounters with people because of this?
I don't necessarily have less encounters, but less effective and non-repetitive encounters. 100%. Because that's what it boils down to. Yeah. If it was, and I know that because just within our friendship, very rarely, little to no, disagreements or disputes or arguments that we've ever had to have. And if we have, it's that awareness of, Ebony didn't like this or Alison didn't like this. And we can really have that conversation. And I also, with conviction, and it goes both ways, know that if I say A, I mean A, and vice versa.
You're not misinterpreting. Yeah.
Right. And when you're dealing with someone that's not self-aware, they're still ticking.
Well, they're still in their fields. Because I can remember a time when we had a disagreement.
Yeah.
And I remember my normal self would have been way more triggered with the situation than I was. Yeah. And I remember you talking to me and saying, no, that's not what I meant. And I apologise it came across that way, and me just thinking to myself, okay, hold on, she's saying she's apologising, so why did I get offended by that? In the conversation, I was thinking that in the conversation, yeah. And then I had to obviously go through the conversation with you and talk out my thoughts, as we do when we're talking to each other.
And I was fine as well, wasn't
I? You were fine, I was fine. We were both very calm about it, but I still was trying to figure out why the hell I was so triggered by what you said.
But can I just point in as well, because I remember the disagreement. I'm glad you pointed that out, because I also had to then say to myself, don't be triggered that she's triggered. And I know that
Why would you be triggered?
Because when you have somebody that you hold in high regard, and that and girl, you can cry, tell people. Stop. You do, and you can feel like they should know you. It's that natural reaction. You should know I don't mean that. Does that make sense? And because we don't have those type of conversations often, it's very much like it was that I'm really explaining myself to this friend. Do you know what I mean? But it was in that moment, my goal was for you to understand where my heart was in that moment and what I truly meant. And the way that you received it helped me understand that you wanted to receive me.
Yes, I did, yeah.
And that's what's important about having, that's the difference. Yeah,
because you can be triggered. There's nothing wrong with being triggered. But stepping back and saying, right, again, being self-aware to say, I am triggered. The person has already expressed that that's not what they meant for this conversation. That's not what their intention was. And so why am I still feeling this way? And I think if you're talking to somebody else who's also self-aware, it's very easy to have that conversation. But we're talking about people who are not. Okay, so or not. So, back to the question, and more specifically, can you hold people accountable? Let me go first. Let me answer that one, because it's a hell yes. Because what I find is, even though people aren't self-aware, they still know exactly what they're doing, and they choose to ignore it.
But they don't always know.
They do, because you tell them. And they choose to ignore it. So say the conversation we had. Say I was not self-aware, right? And then I'm still triggered. And you have countlessly said, that's not what I meant. That was not my intention. I didn't mean to upset you. This is what I meant. Da, da, da. And I'm constantly saying, but why would you say that though? But da 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 da. I'm choosing not to understand you.
Even as you were playing that role, I was switching off.
That's what I mean. So it's like, you're now choosing to not understand. Or you could at least say, you know what? You said what you said, fine. Let me just come off the phone.
Because a lot of people want to talk out their hurt in hopes that you can make them feel better about insecurity that they already had.
But you've already done that. You've continuously said, that's not what I meant, this is what I meant.
But they want you to make them feel better about something that they're not aware that you can't make them feel better about, because it's an insecurity that stemmed from...
But they don't even know about
you. Exactly.
Yeah, they don't, insecurity they don't even know they have. Yeah.
So it's very much like...
Okay, fair
that's
enough.
why I said that they don't always know, because I've had recent encounters and... I could tell this individual was not self-aware at all. Mm-hmm. Like, you can always tell when someone's not self-aware because they're very contradictory. But you notice they're contradictory and they're very defensive.
Yes.
Like, if you say hello and they're trying to listen, and then they say hello, they're like, you see? We both said hello! And you're just like, calm down, Satan. A lot is happening here. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's like, you can tell that. I find that in my personal experience, the people that are the least self-aware are the people that require the most coddling and the most explanation. Yeah. In my personal opinion, they require the most explanation and the most coddling, and they go hand in hand. Yeah. Because they also want a reason. They know they're supposed to feel something. Yeah. But they need you to give them a reason to feel. Yeah. And without that, and what they'll do is they'll poke and prod and probe until they are satisfied with you, whatever sentence you say, for them to say, okay, Some people, they just need something. It doesn't matter what you say to them, but they just need something. So back to the example that you gave me with you and I's encounter. If you entered that conversation looking for something, I would never have been able to give it to you. Because I say to people all the time, and we have this conversation, you cannot write a script when you enter a conversation with somebody else. No. Because they're not privy to it. Yeah. So they haven't recited it.
We always have these stories in our heads of things, and we always low-key try and play them out in real life. Like, we go into situations already having had a full playwright script written.
And I can be guilty of that.
Oh, I'm guilty of that. I'm
so guilty of that.
And then we come into it and first of all, we're expecting a certain outcome. And then we're expecting a certain reaction. So we can't even have a productive conversation, because if you don't give me what I've scripted, then why are we here? Like the conversation is not going to be productive.
And that's what you were saying about the productivity. So do you feel like that? Do you feel like you can have an honest Can we just scale it all the way back so that our souls can understand what we mean by a productive conversation?
A conversation with a favourable outcome for both parties.
Okay, right. So now answer the question. Do you feel like you can have a conversation with a favourable outcome for both parties with somebody that is not self-aware?
No. No, I don't.
That's literally how I feel as well, because I just feel like, for me personally, if I'm dealing with someone that I know is extremely not in touch with self, I've noticed that I also don't feel like I can be myself around that person.
Oh yeah, I don't even have certain conversations.
Yeah,
like I don't even start.
There's so many topics off limit.
Yeah, for
just simply because you're not because. Also, someone that's not self-aware, remember, they don't know their triggers. Yeah. So the conversations that I like to have, exactly, and you like to have, walking around on a minefield, that's the perfect thing to say. I just wanted to repeat that, just in case the people didn't hear. Honestly, that's what it's like, because you're constantly thinking, can I touch on this and can I touch on that? And it's interesting because, again, I said that those are the individuals that want the most coddling and the most explanation. They also want to be the closest to you. What is that about?
Listen, that's a whole conversation for another day.
We have to.
I just feel like, to be honest with you, certain energies attract certain energies. And we don't all know, but for those of you who don't know, empaths exclusively attract narcissists.
They
apparently.
love an empath.
Like, honestly, I don't know I know why it is. There's loads of research and studies to show why. But yes, empaths attract narcissists, so opposites attract at the end of the day. So yeah, someone who's not self-aware will be attracted to someone who is.
Can I just say though, you know, in terms of empaths and narcissists, and for all of our beautiful souls out there who are empaths, you will continue to grow. around a narcissist. A narcissist is stagnant in themselves.
Yeah.
And every encounter that you have with a narcissist, you are constantly journeying and learning and growing and just being the better version of yourself.
Yeah.
So as painful as it is, don't let those narcissists take you down.
And as you go through your journey, it's easier for you to spot it anyway. It's easier for you to spot a narcissist. As you go through your first 3 or 4, and I hope you don't go through 3 or 4, but as you continue going on through them, it's so easier to notice and to catch it early on.
And they come in forms of loved ones. If you can't catch it, look at your siblings, look at your parents, and look at your partners. No, but they usually come in those forms. They're usually family members or love interests.
Yeah, because a lot of people, and we are going to talk about this a lot on the podcast.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that when we're talking about relationships, it's just romantic ones. I need you all to know that the most important relationship is the one with self. Point blank, period.
Tell them.
And then after that comes everything else. You cannot work from the outside in. You have to work from the inside out. So you can't be fostering all these relationships, wondering what's wrong, and you haven't looked at self. With that being said, I think that was a great podcast.
I know, but you're so articulate, babes. That was so attractive. No.
Anyway, yeah, we hope you guys enjoyed the podcast.
Yes, please continue to tune in at divine.soliloquy on Instagram. That's divine.soliloquy. And I'm your girl Ali.
And I'm your girl Ebbs, and we will see you in the next one.